So, today I will show you how to start up and undock your very own FireArc spaceship. Now, this game is called Rogue System, as you probably saw by the video title. It's kind of a mix between DCS Simulator and Elite Dangerous. It's fairly hardcore. I'm still kind of learning it, so if I misspeak or don't use the correct terminology, all those fans out there, please excuse me. I'll try my best, though. So right now we are docked to a station. I'll show you the outside view so you can see right here. And we are on emergency power, as you can tell by the super dim lighting. So we got to get this process rolling before our batteries drain. Go ahead and close the hatch and put the seat back so we can get in. I'm going to go ahead and put it up, turn off the cockpit lights, turn on the instrument lighting. Alright, so the first step involves getting power to the system. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to turn on the battery, and then we're going to have to turn on the main, or the primary, system bus. And this gets power between these systems and other systems. Get a ton of alarms and warning lights telling us that systems are dead, not behaving properly, but that's expected because we're just turning on our ship and nothing to really worry about. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the secondary bus as well, and the secondary battery. So since we are connected to a station, the station provides maintenance power. We can turn off the cutoff and start feeding off the station so that we don't drain our batteries. We're going to go ahead and then set our batteries to recharge. So when an emergency comes, we're all ready to go. And then, as you can see by this display, our secondary capacitor isn't actually receiving any power, but systems are trying to drain from it. That's because the station maintenance feed only feeds into the primary one. So what we got to do is we got to set our distribution mode to balanced, which will reroute some of that load to the primary one. Cool. Now we're going to go ahead and turn on our coolant system. This will keep our systems cool, allow our ship to run. We're going to pressurize and turn on the pump, pressurize and turn on the pump, and as you can see, the pump rate, coolant level, and coolant pressure goes up for both of these loops. Sweet. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and deploy the second radiator because I know it's on the bottom of my ship, so it won't interfere with the docking clamp. You can see right there, it will help keep the ship cooler. Before we move on, I'm going to take a second to enable our display, our VMS, which is the display monitor pretty much, so we can see what's going on around us. There's the station back there. Now that that's up, we are going to go ahead and turn on the tanks. So that each tank needs to have its shutoff valve turned off and a pump enabled. Instead of doing that for all four, I'm just going to hit the enable button. There you go. All four tanks are on. These contain the reactants and fuel and stuff for our fusion core, engines, and fuel cells. Speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the two fuel cells now. These are the secondary backup power in case your fusion core goes down, but they take forever to warm up to operational temperature, so the faster you turn them on, the better, because you will not have enough time to do it if your core goes down and are not ready to go. We'll come back to them later down the line. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn on our radio and start talking to space traffic control. So, battery's kind of freaking out there with radio transmissions. So that we can start turning on our main fusion core. Tell them that departure clearance. So the fusion core is pretty straightforward. We're going to enable the system itself, which will start building up the EM shielding around the core so it doesn't kill us. And we're going to start preheating it as well so that the reaction can occur. Station's telling us to tell them when we're ready to turn on our core, but we'll be ready by the time I stop talking, so we'll just tell them now. What we're waiting for is for the shield level and the temperature to get up, or the shield level at least, to get up to the green, and temperature to get up to orange. That way we can actually turn it on. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and set the fuel source and select tank 4, which is where our reactant for fusion is stored. So as you can see, shield level is up, temperature is up, so we can go ahead and turn off the fuel cutoff and start the fusion process. Bam! Alright, so our fusion reactor is up. We're producing our own power. This means that we can enable the main bus. This is where engines and weapon systems and stuff drains from. Turn off cutoff power and switch distribution to normal so systems can hook up to and drain power from a bus that they normally drain from. As you can see, we have power in all our buses and load is good and everything. Cool. So now that this is done, we can actually start the whole process of leaving. We're going to go ahead and wait. Let's see, let's switch to the comms menu. What the station is going to do is it's going to give us a frequency so we can communicate with them when we undock. Because right now, as we're docked, we have like a hard line to them, so we don't need to use a radio really. This will allow us to communicate when we undock. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the maneuvering thrusters now, which all it's doing is turning on fuel source and turning off the fuel cutoff valve and the injectors. Right now it's running in cold gas mode. Oh, there's our departure frequency, 4523. We'll ignore the other one because we don't really care about it. There we go. So cold gas mode is pretty much just throwing fuel out of the ship. So it's very little thrust, and at the same time it's very precise, allowing you to better control yourself around stations. So last thing we got to do is turn on the nozzles, ready your seat, then we can go into external view and watch them undock. All it really does is just kind of shove your ship away from the station, just like that. And we're pretty much ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and deploy the primary radiator as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and back up. You can hear the thrusters firing in the background. If we switch to external view, you can just barely see them on the dark side. See how it kind of super dark? It's because we're literally just throwing fuel out of the ship. So before we can enable our main engines, we have to get 0.2 kilometers away from the station. And when we do, traffic control will radio us telling us that we're all good to go. So just gotta thrust away for a little bit. Also, that beeping that you're hearing right now is just a proximity alert. It beeps after you get 0.5 or less kilometers to an object, and the faster it beeps, the closer you are. Kind of annoying, but also very helpful to orient yourself. Alright, there we go. So we're good to start our main engines. This process is pretty straightforward. We turn on the superconductor, which builds up the aim shield around the plasma chamber, or I'm not really sure what. Basically allows us to run our engine without killing ourselves, or melting our ship, or exploding, or any other nasty stuff. Once the shield level gets operational to operational levels, which is orange, but I'll do it on green because it's safer, we'll be able to turn on heliconic ionizer, which basically just creates the plasma out of the fuel. Then we just start our engines. Bam. So now we have plasma in the core. It's running pretty cold. We'll enable the cyclotron, I'm sorry, and that will put us up to maximum plasma temperature. Turn off cold gas override, switch to normal thrust mode, and we are ready to go. That's pretty much it. Now I can just turn on open my throttle up, and you'll see just how much faster this is compared to what we were doing before. There it is. So the fuel cells are almost ready. We'll pretend that they reached green. You would really want to wait till the core temperature is in the green, but it's fine if I'll do it for video purposes. So at this point, you just select the fuel source and the reactant source. These buttons do the same thing as the fuel source button on your reactor, simply picking the tank where your reactant are stored. So for instance, if tank 1 and tank 2 stored your reactant, you could select which tank you want this fuel cell to pick from by pressing the button multiple times. But since my ship only has one tank of each, we only need to press it once. That's pretty much it for the fuel cells. If our reactor ever goes down, all we have to do is just press the shut-off valve button here, and the fuel cell will start producing power. The only other two panels left is this panel right here. This is an autopilot. It just helps you counteract your inputs. So for instance, if I turn it off and I pitch up or down, you'll just keep rolling. Enabling it, the ship will stop. There's nothing like that for lateral movement because there's no, I mean, you could do it to a target, but that's about it. And then there's the weapons, which just lets you shoot a capacitor for it. That's pretty much it. Now you know, hopefully, how to turn on your very own spaceship.